Hi everyone, I hope you're all having a good day wherever you are. A question for you. Have you ever had an upper hand about on something, like about something or on a situation, and you had more knowledge of something that was going on uh, compared to the people in the same situation? So we've looked at Nehemiah. Nehemiah was this guy, kind of guy. We've looked at him. We saw how he was diligent in his work and how the king favored him, sent him to, granted him favor to go and rebuild the city or go to see what was saddening him. And he didn't just send him and give him time off. He sent him with resources and people. And when Nehemiah reached Jerusalem, he did not like rub it in the face of people who are ridiculing him or showing even authority, like, hey, I have this from the king. No, he went in humility, yeah, and knowing that he was still favored, but he did not like show off. Because if we see in Nehemiah 2:19, when Sanballat and his friends try to mock him, ridicule him, like, hey, what are you doing? Are you not going against the king's king? Are you not going against the king? Are you not rebelling? Nehemiah did not like start showing him what the king had given him, like the letters and the authorization of that he was granted. Nehemiah just, he just told him that you're not even welcome here. Like, after all this is done, you're not welcome in Jerusalem. Because I want us to see two things today. We sometimes rebuke the enemy at the wrong time. I know what you're thinking, because sometimes you're like, oh, I rebuke you, enemy. Oh, it's the devil who has done this. Sometimes we accuse the enemy when it's not even time to accuse him. And the second thing I want us to see today is there's a time to be silent, even when you have the upper hand and you can actually show it and prove it and justify your loudness. Sometimes you can make noise and you have really nothing, but sometimes there's a justification to the noise you're making. But Nehemiah did not even make noise, even though he had everything that he could just shut these people up with the letters from the king. And that's what I want us to look at. There are two scenarios. Either you are being ridiculed, or you're struggling at the place you are working or at home, any situation with your neighbors or with your families, you're estranged, and you have this gift or this message from God or peace from God, but you cannot tell it. You cannot tell it. You cannot show it to people, the same people who are ridiculing you, because it's not time. And I think wisdom is knowing when to speak at this moment, especially when you are being stepped on. I mean, for me, as human beings, this is the time you really want to like show people in their faces, or show the enemy in their face, like, look, and this is what God has done, this is what God has told me. No, we learn from Nehemiah, but that it's time to be silent until God, it's time to reveal, when it's mature enough. Even in our reality life, there are things you cannot start exposing before their maturity stage. Like the larva, it's they have to be mature before you start exposing them. And that's the same thing. So there's a time to be silent, even when you know that you have an instruction from God. There's a time to be silent and to persevere in the mocking and being ridiculed, just like Nehemiah. Because there's a time and place where God's glory needs to be revealed, and there's a time to know how to execute it. For him, when he was ready and to rebuild the city, that's when people realized, like, oh wow, he had a backing, like he was favored to do this. And the other thing is, we have to be just diligent in loving even when it's people are being unlovable. In those situations when you can really show them and justify and say how you're the child of God, and how you have a calling to speak up, and you have a calling, and you need to say those things. We just need to love even when the situation is unlovable. you know God is asking, are you doing what pleases me? Instead of being quick to actually show off the message that you have from him, or the confirmation that you have from him? Are you being diligent in doing what pleases him? Are you being intentional about the kingdom work? And what is kingdom work? It's loving your enemies, loving your neighbors as you love yourself. So are you intentional of doing that, even despite how you're being treated? Your lifestyle, you're loving, are you loving people? Not just rebuking even when it's not time. I know what I know this sounds a little bit weird, but there are times not to rebuke the enemy. There are times to kind of know how you're going to execute that rebuke. Like, is it time? Is it mature yet? Do you actually know what you're doing? Or are you just blaming the enemy even when it's not his fault? um, so wisdom is knowing when to seek God's power, in revealing, in him revealing himself. So there's a time to be silent, and just, it's so hard not to show off what God has shown you. But if he hasn't shown it to someone else, and if it's not time, then I think we're just doing it immature, in an immature way. And I think wisdom of the Holy Spirit is knowing when to really show this. And we can see that also in Romans, Romans 16:17-20. I'll just read as we finish. So I urge you, brothers and sisters, to watch out for those who cause division and put obstacles in your way that are contrary to the teaching you have learned. Keep away from them, for such people are not serving our Lord Jesus, but their own appetites. By smooth talk and flattery, they deceive the minds of naive people. Everyone has heard about your obedience, so I rejoice because of you. But I want you to be wise about what is good and innocent about what is evil. The God of peace will soon crush Satan under your feet. So 19 up there, he says, everyone has heard about your obedience. Obedience in knowing when to speak and when to, not reveal what God has spoken to you about, even though it is the upper hand and it will give you an upper hand. I think wisdom is knowing when to do this and obeying the voice of God when he actually nudges you to say it, and not you saying it so that you can win an argument or win a situation or win over people ridiculing you. So 20, the God of peace will soon crush Satan under your feet. It's the work of God to crush Satan, and it's not our work to use the information and the promises God has given us to kind of have an upper hand. So I pray that we will know when to be silent and when to rebuke the enemy when when he needs rebuking, and knowing when it's actually our fault because we released the plans God had, the instructions God had given us when it was not time yet. I wish you a good day and see you in the next video. Be blessed. Bye bye.